So, if you and I had something medically wrong with us that just didn't seem to be getting better, we would probably start searching for alternative treatments to get better health. Now, I know I would for sure. But let's talk about your pet. Have you ever had a pet that had some sort of an issue and it kept lingering on, even with your veterinarian suggested treatment? Shouldn't you do the same thing for your pet that you should do for yourself? Anyways, in today's episode, Dr. Katie Woodley joins me. She's also known as the natural pet doctor. Now, she grew up in the U.S., but then she attended vet school in New Zealand. Now, side note, I love New Zealand, and I'm a bit jealous that she got to go to school there. Well, once she graduated, she started practicing traditional veterinary medicine until her husband was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease. Traditional medicine just wasn't really helping, so her being her started looking outside of the box to see if she could find an alternative approach for her husband. And guess what? He's better now, and hundreds of animals are better now too, due to her looking for an alternative ways for treating different disorders. And as she says, it's given her more tools in her veterinary toolbox. And this journey is the genesis of the natural pet doctor. Now, her approach is looking for the root cause of whatever's wrong, not just treating the symptoms, the root cause. Many of these actually start with pet gut health. Now, it's a whole body approach. Food, herbs, lifestyle, and environment that goes along with the traditional veterinary ways you and I usually treat our pets. Now, she also has online courses so you can better educate yourself. And she also has what she calls a blueprint for the lifetime of a healthy, holistic pet, and so much more. Katie was such a delight to talk to, and I know you're going to find her a delight too. But more importantly, I have a gut, did you get it? Feeling that you and your pet are going to be better off after getting to meet the natural pet doctor.
For real, 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 for real. Got a bunch of furry friends and I love them all the same. I'm an animal lover, veterinarian is the name. Let's share some pet stories from heartwarming to strange, losses and gains, from wacky to insane. For real. You're now tuned in to For Real with your host, Mark Kyle.
Everybody, and welcome back to the For Real podcast. Today, I've got a good one. I have Dr. Katie Woodley, right?
Yep.
Pronounced the natural pet doctor. So, Katie, what I normally do is I get into the background and I want to hear about your journey, how you got to where you are. And I really want to get into the natural pet doctor, but I want everybody to get to know you because then they're going to love you. And then they're going to say, wow, she really is a natural pet doctor. So let's talk about your journey. Let's where you started, how you got there, and where you are today.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mark, for having me here. So my journey, so essentially, I've always wanted to be a vet. I know a lot of veterinarians say that, but I just really resonated with animals. And my mom was like the animal savior of the neighborhood. All the like feral cats would show up on her doorstep. We'd take them in and just real connection with the animals. And when I was in my undergrad degree, doing my undergrad degree at Notre Dame, I was applying to vet schools. And I found out about a vet school in New Zealand called Massey University, and it was accredited just like going to Colorado State. So I applied, I got in, got on a plane, and essentially changed my whole life by living over in New Zealand. And going to vet school there was amazing. I actually got to see more of kind of how animals live off the land, like going back to the way it should be, which was really exciting and fun. And then I also met my own Kiwi in the human form, and we got married. I ended up staying there for 7 years, worked there for a couple of years after vet school. And we decided to move back to the States about 2 years after I graduated. And one of the things that really changed the course of my life and also my career is 6 months after moving back, my husband was diagnosed with an autoimmune condition called IBD, so inflammatory bowel disease. And one of the things that was really hard and frustrating about that is you're told it's a forever disease. You can't do much about it. And the drugs are really strong. They usually don't work. And sometimes they can kill you, but there's no other options. And we didn't agree with that, but we didn't know what to do. And so this is where I went down the rabbit hole and started researching what else is there. We've always been more holistic minded anyways. We lived on a lifestyle property in New Zealand. We had our own gardens. We, had our sheep and lambs, like we were talking about it just before this, and, ate pretty healthy and had a really healthy lifestyle overall. And so it just didn't resonate with us. Like, you have to go on these really strong biologic drugs and they don't work well. They shut down your immune system. You're at risk of things like cancer.
I got a question for you. So
Mhm.
he didn't have the issue there, or did he?
No.
So he had it when he moved to the States, which is
Yes.
interesting. So there's something that's correlating here when you talk about fresh food and all that kind of stuff.
There is. And that's the thing, too. I think this is where a lot of it resonates with kind of the journey I'm on now in teaching pet parents about how to look at health. Because when we look back at it, there were some like little small GI symptoms, but nothing like what he experienced when he was diagnosed once we got here. And this is where the little things can add up over time. And this is also where the idea that health, like a symptom, is the result of all these breakdowns in health over time that are going on under the surface. So we don't always see the symptom, but things are happening internally. And this is where people are, you're eating a poor quality diet and you're like, I feel fine. It's fine. I'm not sick. I don't have any health conditions. I haven't been diagnosed with anything. And they continue on that path, but you're building up that inflammation. Other things are starting to break down. And I always reference it's like a bucket. We're all buckets, right? We're all different size buckets depending on our stressors, our sleep, our food we're eating. It's the same with our pets. We want our bucket to be nice and big and to be emptying every single day so that when we wake up the next day, we can fill it back up with like toxins, foods, stressors,
Sure.
like all the things that life is throwing at us. We don't want that bucket to overflow. When it starts overflowing because the body can't handle anymore, that means something's broken, and that's when we typically see symptoms. So by that point, now we're in this reactive phase and we start chasing symptoms, and that's where everything, like all the wheels fall off and people get stuck on chronic medications and prescription diets in the pet world. And, this is where better understanding how disease actually happens is really important. And that's something where with my own husband, looking back, what could we have shifted and changed? Maybe this would have happened regardless. And I think that's important too, to keep in mind. Like, I do feel like we come here to go through experiences and journeys for whatever it is. It led me to
Right.
where I am professionally. So I'm actually really grateful we went through that. I wouldn't wish it on anyone, but I feel like it's led me to a much better place because of what we know now and how we can share that knowledge and support pets in a very different way. So this is where, we're going through this process with him, and I'm in the vet clinic seeing these sick animals, and I'm telling them there's nothing else we can do. When, the conventional meds stop working, they have cancer, they have chronic like allergies, and you're like, I don't know what else to do. There's nothing else you can do. You've exhausted all of my resources and tools. And that never resonated with me. And so through the process of learning more about human health, this is where I was like, I can do more and I can do better. And so I became acupuncture certified. I became certified in Chinese herbal medicine, do a lot of like Western herbal trainings, certified in natural nutrition, Chinese food therapy, because I wanted to have more tools in my toolbox so I didn't have to tell people there's nothing else you can do.
So here's a funny thing. I use that term all the time because I really do believe in integrative medicine, but I use the term more tools in the toolbox. I use it all the time. That's funny.
Yeah. And I mean, here's the thing, like, I'm not, as an integrative, when we say holistic, I think that scares a lot of people where they're like, oh, it's woo woo, there's no science. And that's not the situation here.
Sure.
This is where integrative medicine, I look at myself as the bridge. So we have holistic modalities over here. We have conventional medicine over here. We need conventional medicine. So how can we integrate the two beautifully? It's like if I get hit by a car, I don't want you to be like, okay, Katie, let's get the acupuncture needles in you. Like, take me to the hospital, give me some pain medications and fix my broken femur. And then afterwards, this is where all of like the holistic integrative modalities are really powerful. So I don't have to stay on chronic medications. I can heal very quickly. And it's the exact same principles for our pets. So drugs are sometimes needed, especially to save lives. But the problem is when we get to that point, we are the ambulance at the bottom of the cliff. And now we've got to climb back up the cliff, which is much harder to do than be proactive in the first place.
There you're chasing the tail.
Exactly. And this is where most people don't realize that there are easy foundations that you can start solidifying. And that's where essentially I got sick and tired of working in the conventional medical, system at the clinics. I was like, I'm tired of this.
I want more options.
Yeah, and also too being told by the companies that own those clinics, like you got to make sure you prescribe those prescription diets.
Mhm.
You got to use the drugs, like the herbs they don't work. And I was like, I'm done with this. This is not what I came into vet medicine for. And then that's when I created the Natural Pet Doctor. And now I feel very blessed because it's opened a world of opportunities to better support pet parents around the world through education and other programs we've done. But also too, like the other neat piece that I didn't expect at the start of it is being able to partner with really awesome companies too, to be able to promote and do the research for more functional medicine tests. And then also too, for like the supplement side of things, because pet parents just don't know. And,
Sure.
When we know more, we can do better. And that's really important.
So one thing is, when I look at integrative medicine, you use the term holistic. I spell it instead of with an H with a WH,
Yep.
because that's really what you're trying the whole approach. The other thing is too is like we were talking about the stressors that the animals go through too when they're unhealthy and that. And when you talk about PTSD, which is really part of that at some level, is up until probably 12 years ago, nobody was even thinking about animals having PTSD. And what we always forget is all our best friends, cat, dog, or horses, they go through the same medical issues that we have. And you never really realize that until you have people like yourself that are doing that too. So,
Yeah.
and I think it's important to combine both Eastern and Western medicine because there are certain things either one doesn't do.
Correct. And I think too, one of the things that I see a lot with my clients, like I'm no longer surprised when they tell me they have the same health condition as their pet.
Oh yeah.
This is where, our pets are going to mirror us also. And this doesn't mean that you're creating or causing the health condition in your pet, but it's important when you realize that you're like, I can become more aware of how I'm taking care of myself, how I'm managing my own stress load. And a lot of times we end up taking better care of ourselves because you're like, I don't want my cat or my dog to take this on and carry it, because energy always precedes physical form.
I was just going to go, it's the energy.
Yeah.
We're there.
Energy precedes physical form. Now,
Yeah.
I always look at when we have a physical ailment, this is where physical tools are really powerful. But if you don't get to the place where you're addressing like the emotional health needs, the energetics of what's going on, this is where it's really hard to get complete remission. And it's one of the things that's not discussed enough, especially in medicine, because it's like scary, it's uncomfortable. And also too, as humans, like it's the last thing we want to shift and change. You're like, I'm fine. I just want to give a supplement that makes me feel good. But addressing like your internal demons is not the easiest form, right? So we tend to shove it aside and keep going on, right? With all of our things that we're doing that are self-destructing us. And,
Yeah.
but it is a really important piece to the puzzle, especially with healing pets, because I see that a lot of times where an animal will come to me and the pet parent, they're doing their best and, they well-meaning, but they're on 30 supplements. And we start looking at the supplements and I'm like, I don't even know what's working. And two, what's potentially causing like an overload of the kidneys, the liver has to process this, the gut, if your pet's really sensitive, this is creating a whole host of issues. It doesn't mean what you're giving is not helping, but there's way too much overload and we kind of miss the mark and we need to pull back. And this is also where a lot of like the functional medicine tests are really powerful and helpful to identify where those root imbalances are. So that way you have a better idea of what actually needs to be addressed versus just like throwing everything at the wall and hoping it sticks, right? So I think,
Yeah, it's not going to approach.
yeah, exactly. So I think that's one of the key things that pet parents, I want them to take away is keeping things simple and making sure that they're assessing, okay, what are my foundations? And so I always look at like nutrition and food. That is a foundation. Most of the time, like if you're feeding a processed food diet, I know, lightly or minimally processed foods, like your lightly cooked, your raw food diets, they're not the cheapest. And that's a downside for a lot of people. And I recognize that and I want to honor that. But if we can reduce the amount of processed food that's going into our pets, a lot of times that alone will get them to a better place than having to spend a bunch of money on supplements and herbs and other things. And so I think that's really important for people to realize, like, okay, we can keep this simple, try the simple thing first versus trying everything and hoping something works and then you don't know what is working. But also too, if you can't transition 100% to a minimally processed diet, even adding like superfood toppers, your organic blueberries, lightly steamed, like steamed broccoli, your steamed Brussels sprouts, green beans. These are all really important phytonutrients that are going to help reduce stress and inflammation in the body and help support and feed the beneficial microbes in the gut and do a lot of really helpful things. So I think people kind of step over that and then they're trying a lot of other things and they missed like the simple foundational changes they can make right away.
For real, 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 for real.
And we'll be right back. This one's for all you cat owners out there. Now, most of my life, my family's had cats at one time or another. Now, for me, the only negative thing about cats, well, it was that stinky litter box. But guess what? BoxyCat has solved that problem. Now, just think. No more stinky litter boxes. But let's talk about that. BoxyPro, pro as in probiotics. Boxy's probiotics actually stop the bacteria that causes odors, and that means infinite days of having an odor-free litter box. You still got a scoop, but again, none of those stinky odors. Now, my son and his family, they use Boxy for their cat Donut, and let me tell you, nobody's holding their nose in their house. So if you want to stop holding your noses, get Boxy at BOXIECAT.com, and you can get a 30% discount if you use the code BoxyCat.com/for real. That's BOXIECAT.com/for real. And let's get some fresh air back in your house. We are supported by PrepVet, providing stem cell therapy for pets.
As a pet lover, did you know your pet can benefit from the incredible healing power of stem cell therapy? Prep Therapy offers a groundbreaking solution taken right from your pet's own blood. Say goodbye to joint pain, arthritis, kidney and liver conditions, and more. They'll experience faster recovery, increased vitality, and extended quality of life without the need for surgery or harmful drugs. Put the wag back in their tail and discover Prep Therapy today at PrepVet.com. Save 10% with promo code FurRealPodcast, covered by most pet insurance.
When you talk about minimally produced or whatever the way you were said it, talk to people out there how they can, my daughter uses, she makes her own food for her dogs with the sweet potatoes and a bunch of different things like that.
Yep.
Can you just guide everybody that's listening some real simple things that they could do to get away from kibbles that are so good for you?
Yeah, and I think this is, I always, looking at kibble, because we're taught it in vet school. This is why your veterinarian recommends it.
You know why you're taught in vet school?
Because there's money. I know. There's a whole deeper level that's going on.
We're going to get money in your school, but you're going to talk about whatever this brand is. I'm not going to say.
Yeah, I look at my dog, my Finn, and I fed him German Shepherd kibble because I didn't know better. I was like, this is the best for him, and I was like, I just didn't know. And
right.
I want people to think about, because you're probably wondering if like this is a new concept for people who are listening, like what's wrong with kibble? And it's the way that it's processed. It's the low quality ingredients, the rendering process too. I mean, I've done entire talks on rendering and what it is. So that's something that, pet parents can go and look up. But this is where it's not human grade ingredients, meaning it's food grade or feed grade. It's not food grade. And so this is where it's not fit for human consumption. And that is like the first, that's a...
I eat it all the time. What are you talking about?
Right? Yeah, you're like getting, you're going to the slaughterhouse, right? And finding the discarded animal or like the dead cow in the field that needed to, it died 5 days ago. And you're like, that one right there, that's the steak I want, right? That's how tasty. It's aged, right? Been in the sun, it's perfect. Well, that's what's going into our pet food. Yeah. So this is where also too, through the processing, the extrusion process and how they make the kibble, this is where when we talk about a biologically appropriate diet for both dogs and cats, this is where we look at they're carnivores, right? Now, we can start world wars over this discussion and nutrition. So
yeah, I know.
I always look at their dentition. We look at, yes, they have evolved. They lack the digestive enzymes to break down carbs. But unfortunately, your kibble diets are going to be over at least 50% carbohydrate in order for it to be extruded into those nice little kibble chunks. Also, it's being heated at really high heat temperatures multiple times through that process. That's creating inflammatory ingredients, advanced glycation end products. So it's like taking a piece of meat, putting it on, the grill and burning it, right? That black charcoal, that essentially is creating the same toxic compounds, which are also carcinogenic, meaning that it can form cancer down the road. Now, I'm not saying you're going to give your pet cancer, but it is creating inflammation and oxidative stress in the body that can lead to those chronic diseases down the road. So simple ways to get off those foods. Once again, there are so many more brands now, which is fantastic. There are, we have a pet food list on our website. There's Susan Thixton, The Truth About Pet Food, who also shares the list every single year. I highly recommend people who are interested in that, purchase it. I think it's like $10 to support her research that she does. That is a really great way to get started. But then once again, keeping it simple. This is where I started with my own German Shepherd, because once again, he was eating kibble and then he started spitting it out and looking at me like I was feeding him like acid. It was like, This isn't right. There's something wrong here.
It's like a little kid saying, "You're going to make me eat vegetables?"
He doesn't like it. So then we started transitioning him to a homemade diet. Now, with homemade diets, it is really important that you balance it. And this is where a lot of pet parents get it wrong, where there's not a calcium source, they're not using organs or adding in the vitamins and minerals to balance it. So that's something to keep in mind. But that can be a huge transition and also reduce the cost if you can find balanced recipes from your veterinarian. There's a lot of great books on recipe books that we have available now that are all balanced diets for your pets, dogs and cats. But even starting simple, this is where simple things like omega-3s, adding omega-3s onto that food, whether it's in whole food form or using a supplement, brings down inflammation, supports the cell membranes, really helps with that. So sardines in water are a great source. My cats love them. So I'll just mash them up and put a little bit on their food or even offer it as a treat. I also use freeze-dried, like herring, mackerel, things like that. Those are really great options, and they can be great dental chews too, where they're chewing on it and can help scrape off the tartar. So there's a lot of great ways to introduce that, and just using hopefully people are still eating their vegetables too. So, steam your vegetables, start break down that cellulose, that plant wall, because your pets do not have the digestive enzymes to break that down like we do. And put a little bit of that, like it as a topper, onto your pet's food. Put a little bit of canned unsweetened pumpkin. Do a little bit of cooked sweet potato, Mark, like you said your daughter's using. And then this is also too where, okay, if you want, this is where, what are some of the foundational supplements that you can use too, right? So I mentioned your omega-3s are really powerful. Now, supplements can come with a red flag. This is where, just because something sounds good, like I'm saying, get an omega-3. There are a lot of poor quality supplement companies out there where the ingredients are not ideal. They're coming from farm salmon versus Atlantic salmon that's sustainably and ethically raised or caught. So that's something to keep in mind too. And you need to look for that on the website. There should be also, what is the company testing for? So this is looking at you can, if you don't see it on the website, asking for certificate of analysis, the COA. Are they testing for heavy metals? Are they testing for chemicals? Because this is where things go really south. And so making sure that those companies are really forthcoming with that information. And if they are not, and they're kind of evading your questions, or they're taking forever to get back to you, that is a really red flag. So this is why there are certain companies that I'll work with and support. And also, there are certain companies that I recommend for my clients or through education that I know, like, and trust, because they are ticking those boxes. One of them, Prospect Pet, I work with them because they tick the boxes and they meet my clinical standard. And there are plenty of other omega-3 companies where I won't recommend or use them because, for one, I have no idea what's the level of the EPAs, the DHAs in them. I can't get a therapeutic concentration. That's a huge red flag. They're not testing for heavy metals. They don't have the research. They don't care about how it's being, labeled and marketed. They're just there to sell it and make a profit from it. And I'm not all about that. So I think that's really important for pet parents to realize too. But once again, going back to keep it simple. Foundations, what are some simple things that you can add in that don't create a ton of stress, that don't break your budget too, which is really important for, I know, a lot of people in this day and age. And that's typically how I start, like the solidifying the foundations of health for a pet.
Is that one of your 5 pillars?
It is. Yep. Nutrition, gut health, nutrition is going to feed the microbiome. This is also to environmental health. So I do a lot of hair tissue mineral analysis tests.
Yeah, I wanted to get into that.
Yeah, those are really powerful and helpful. And you get to see a lot of like the heavy metals that, we live in a toxic world. And I think this is also where too, unfortunately, we have surpassed where food is enough. I hate saying that, but I don't think that even with the healthiest diets, with organic food, we have destroyed our soil ecosystem. We love all the chemicals in our environment, and it makes it really difficult to get everything we need from food for ourselves. And also this applies to our pets. And this is also why, having those frameworks and those foundations solid is really important, and being aware like food matters, but also too, what can we add on to make sure the other foundations of health are solid also?
Which is what?
Yeah, so we have gut health and nutrition.
Right.
We have physical health, so movement, right? This is where it's going into the toilet with people, right? People are not moving.
Right.
Like I go for a run. I love doing half marathons. Turned 40 and started doing half marathons. Didn't want to go down the hill, right? So I came over.
Old as a trumpet at this point.
It's all over. You're 40. Just go lay down.
Yeah, you're done.
Get my mobility scooter. You're done.
Don't waste your time. You don't need to do that.
Yeah,
now.
exactly. So, I'll be running and I'm like, well, how many e-bikes are there? Like use your legs, get your heart going. Like, this is actually really good. But, I think that the physical health side of things, getting out with your pets, and also the one thing I do want to bring up too, and this taps into the other pillar of emotional health, is the connection with your pet. Mark, I don't know if you go for I imagine you go for a lot of walks and things and get outside.
I work out every day.
Yeah, great. Fantastic. That's why you're healthy. And so big reason.
Well, I wouldn't call me healthy at all.
Healthier than what you could be, right?
Are we talking about mental health or physical health?
We're talking about physical health right now with a little bit of mental health.
Physical health, I'm pretty good. That mental health, I don't know about me.
But like the physical health side of things, right? Getting outside, and I see so many people, they're on their phones.
Oh.
And they're like they're about to walk into a tree. The dog is off eating like poop. And I'm like, presence, put the phone away, be present. Your pet is feeling that. Like, ground yourself, enjoy like the setting that you're in. And I think that is being lost because of, I'm so grateful for, electronics and Wi-Fi and internet, because it allows us to do these types of things and share our message more broadly.
Bittersweet.
But it's, it's at a downfall for society where we can't disconnect and be present with our furry ones and our humans.
Right. I'll give you, this is a great example of exactly what you're saying. So today's my gym day, so I'm not running. I run with my dog, okay, on the days that I'm not. So when I go to the gym, when I come home, I take her for a walk just because she just likes being outside. I'm walking and there's this trail here and I'm walking behind this guy. The entire time I'm behind him, he's looking at his phone. I'm going, dude, do you even know you're outside? It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen.
I know, right? I mean, I almost ran into some lady. She had her dog and I was running and I was like, no, for surely she sees me like coming, and they're taking up the whole sidewalk, right? And it's like, I can't really get off the path because I'm going to fall into like the river. And
Right.
It's one of those things where like, just like this. And I was like, I could literally mug her. I can mug you right now. You are so unaware. I could take whatever I wanted from you. You probably wouldn't even know. And I think this is a huge issue. We are becoming so disconnected. And also too, I don't know what they're looking at, but I do a lot of social media and I've done that for a few years now. And I know a big detriment to a lot of people is like the comparison, right? And, oh, I wish I had that, or I should be this. And then we go down this spiral. And this is that emotional health piece.
Which carries through to your pets. That's the point. It carries through to your pet.
Well, and also too, I feel like, and I read something recently, and it made a lot of sense around like the immune system. And with chronic illness, we get stuck in this chronic inflammatory state. And there's different phases with the immune cells. I don't need to go like Th2, Th1. We get stuck in a more inflammatory state. In order to get out of that, we actually need to shift into more right brain. What happens is a lot of people where the fear, the stress of whatever's happening, they're up Googling all night. They're sending emails, like we get emails at like 2 a.m. and I'm like, are you sleeping? And I know who's with you, right? Like, and I go to bed at like 9. I wake up really early. I'm a morning person, and I'm not saying everyone should be that. We all have our own natural circadian rhythms that we should honor, but we want to become more aware, like you are sitting there with the blue light, your pet is probably sitting there with you too. Are we impacting their sleep cycle too? And then also from a physiological level, if we're sitting there researching and we're like, there's got to be more, there's got to be something else, there's got to be all these things, we're actually getting stuck in the left brain, which is actually down regulating our vagus nerve, which is very important for getting back into rest and digest, the parasympathetic.
Oh, rest and digest. I've never heard it said that way. I love that term.
Yeah. And this is where if you're stuck in a stressed, like fight or flight response, that's your sympathetic nervous system.
Yeah.
Very important. Like it saved our butts a lot of times. But if you're stuck in that response all the time, you can't digest properly. Your digestion is literally shut down.
Right.
And so if you're eating when you're in that state, it is not being processed. You're not getting your vitamins, your minerals. The microbes are not going to be happy. They're going to be stressed. They're going to be sending signals to your brain. You're going to be producing more stress hormones. This is also happening in our pets.
Well, I'm going to interrupt you real quick because it made me think of something. By the way, I should have forewarned you. I made the HD and I bounce all over the place.
I know, it's all good. I can go with you.
So I was just thinking about the digestive system because there are some dogs out there that are inherently anxious just because that's their nature. They were rescues.
Yeah.
And also, are they having issues at that point too with digestion generally? Is that
100%. So I mainly focus on gut health and skin health now.
I wanted to get there too. See, you know my stuff away.
I'm reading your mind.
Yeah.
We're connected.
Fight or flight right now.
So in terms of, these rescue animals, and I think this is something too that's really important. They're like with behavioral issues, this is where trainers are really important also, because it's not just about supplementing and things like that, but I do see a lot of reactivity. There are certain breeds that are also high energy, and if they're not getting enough physical activity, you will see it manifest behaviorally, which then down the road will also impact the gut. We have this feedback loop between the brain and the gut because of the gut-brain axis, where if we're stressed, we can actually create leaky gut, which is inflammation in that gut lining, and that can create an immune response and create like food sensitivities and hot spots and itchiness and all sorts of things.
Acid, stomach acid.
Yeah, exactly. It impacts that, which is going to impact your absorption of nutrients. So it shuts everything down. And then vice versa, if you have gut imbalances, like the microbiome is off, so the trillions of different microbes that should be, living happily together to digest the food, produce hormones like serotonin and tryptophan, and if those aren't happy, that can create inflammation in that gut lining, and then it's going to travel up through that vagus nerve to the brain and create neuroinflammation, brain on fire. And that's when we see reactivity, you see pets that are nervous. So it's a vicious cycle that, it's a perpetuating loop. Once we start seeing like, okay, well, what are some of the simple things we can do? Going back, omega-3s. We need our omega-3s in the brain. So puppies, kittens, what can we give them? Omega-3s right from the start. They need a lot of DHA to properly form their nervous system and develop that brain in a healthy manner. So once again, going back to your simple supplements or adding in those whole food options I mentioned earlier, rewind if you didn't hear that. But that's
I can help you. Just call me. I know everything.
So that's definitely something where, looking at like what to go back to our original thing, right? The pillars of health, physical health, the emotional health, the gut health, which is connected to nutrition, and then your environmental health, making sure those detox pathways are working well. That typically comes, like everything is connected still, comes from the foods you're eating, how well you're digesting that, what is the level of stress and inflammation in your body, but also too, what do you need to reduce and remove in your environment? Because I don't know, Mark, are you like me where you go for a walk and you're like, gosh, that laundry detergent smell? Like, I don't know if you're using.
I use Gain. I love the smell like Gain.
No, Mark, no, no.
I love Gain.
Gotta get rid of gain. You're losing. It's not gaining.
I've been losing a long time ago. I just love the smell.
So that's a chemical. It's a forever chemical. And here's the other thing with gain. I'm going to mention actually, I'm glad you brought up gain because this is a really common problem for a lot of pet parents, especially itchy pets. Gain will stay in clothing and bedding for like 4 to 6 weeks after the last time you used it.
That's why it smells so good.
Yeah, like it's there forever, right? It's also impacting your detox and cells. But
What are you talking about?
a lot of pets, think about it. A pet's laying on a bedding, the blankets, they're curled up next to you, and it can actually cause an inflammatory response that manifests as what we think is an allergy.
Oh, so now you're blaming my dog on
I
me.
am. No, we're educating. It's all about education because once you know better, you can do better, right? So, but no, I think this is where a lot of people get stuck too because you do all the things, you're doing all the other things right, but then there's this chemical burden that's keeping the body inflamed. And that's where things can shut down. They're not working as well. The cell membranes get kind of stiff and stuck. They can't move out toxins and properly get rid of things. And then down the road, what happens? The little mitochondria, the energy powerhouses in the cell, they're overloaded. They can't work as well. That's when serious issues start happening, right? When we get into that phase. So this is where looking at, okay, are we using filtered water? You know, it's not, you don't need to go do a reverse osmosis for your entire house, but can you get a water filter and not use tap water? Simple adjustment. Can we change out the laundry detergent to a more clean product? Can we change out like the dish soap, right? Because thinking about all the things that we come into contact with or that our pets.
Okay, well, hold on. So if my gain is bad for me, I'm not gaining, I'm losing. If I lose, not my
To
gain.
change the name to
So,
losing.
what are some of the good things that people, for their pets and for themselves? I'm not sure I'm losing my smell thing, but anyways.
Okay, so wait, let me give you another alternative, right? Because
Okay.
and this was one thing, like I used to use perfumes. And then when I learned about stuff, I was like, oh, I can't use these anymore. So I want to smell good also, right? I don't want to be running around smelling stinky.
You don't? You want to smell good? Really?
You can still
I
smell
think New
good.
Zealand, they don't care.
Well, I do because I'm still a Colorado girl at heart. So
Yeah.
this is where I use things like essential oils.
Okay.
So you can actually get like those wool lint balls,
Sure.
and you can put essential oils on there, and that will naturally scent your clothing. So rather than, it's not going to be as strong
Like
as
citrus oils, the essential citrus and stuff
you can
like
use
that.
whatever you prefer. So,
Uh-huh.
depending on if like you want more calming, lavender's great for that. So if you feel stressed out all the time, lavender's a great one. Chamomile's a great one. If you need more energy or want alertness, rosemary, lime, lemon, those are all ones that you can use. So that's how I've, kind of switched where I don't want to be stinky, but I can tell you one of the things.
You don't?
Yeah, no, ideally not, but
Yeah.
if you do, that's okay too. There's no shame in that. But one of the things for any, talking about what can you switch to, because I think having those alternatives is really important for people. And also too, the other piece to this is not going crazy and getting really stressed out that you have to shift everything all at once. I always say, what is the one thing that you can do? I think that's a really important takeaway for pet parents is what is the one thing you can do this week or this month if you're feeling really overwhelmed? Keep it simple. Like that's a resounding theme of this conversation is keeping things simple for yourself.
But simple's sometimes hard, by the way.
It is.
Simple's not the easiest thing to do. Simple's actually harder than you think. Simple makes sense when you say it, but to do simple's not an easy thing to do. It really isn't, in my opinion.
It can be, right? Like 100%. And so I think this is where, in terms of each person will be different. We're all individuals, right? So looking at what is the area for, I work with a lot of pet parents, and also a lot of stress and anxiety comes from that because they've been watching their pet be sick and not getting it there. So there's a lot of anxiety. And so this is where looking at for that individual person, asking the question, okay, what is creating the most stress for you right now? if feeding the prescription food is creating the most stress, okay, well, what is the most simple way of getting you off of that food, right?
Right.
It's not, oh, well, you need to go clean out your laundry detergent and start there, because they're going to be worried about the food. So I think that's an important assessment question that every single person listening can do, where they're like, what is the thing causing the most stress for me? Is there an action step I can take?
Well, again, back to the detergent, except for the smell. What kind of detergents out there do you think are better for people? I'm curious for myself because I love that smell, but I can get oils that smell that way too. So I get that.
Yeah, and there's more natural brands. I think this is where, because brands can change, right? Things get bought out.
I know you're not marketing a brand. I'm just out of curiosity. So the big brands generally are not good for you. It's the kind of the holistic.
Well, there are some big brands that are still healthier. So one of the resources that I recommend people go to is the Environmental Working Group website. So ewg.org.
Okay.
And what's really nice with that, for one, there's a water section. Like if you go in and you type in your zip code, this is where you'll see all the different chemicals that are in your tap water. We have like 12 carcinogenic byproducts in our drinking water, which is really exciting. And then there's also a section for looking at more of like your personal healthcare products. So you can actually type in and look at, okay, I use Gain. What's in this? And you'll be like, oh, I shouldn't use that anymore. Or and they'll give you recommended brands and things like that too.
Uh-huh.
So using that resource, I highly recommend. Now, for international listeners, unfortunately, it's probably more based for the US, but
Right.
that's a great resource to get started. And also too, you're learning about what those chemicals are and what they do. So I think that way.
You're educating yourself. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And by the way, for everybody that's listening, all these things we're bringing up will be in the description. If you go to the description, they'll be in there. And she's going to give me a bigger list than I'm going to put in here. She didn't realize that's what she is. Because I'm going to gain something from my loss of detergent.
And you know what I'm really excited about, Mark, is hearing how great you feel like 3 months down the road.
I can't wait to see how much I've gained after I lost my
It's
gain.
okay. It's a small loss for a bigger gain in the long
Yeah, exactly.
It's just like health, right? It's not eating healthy. Like it's so much easier to eat unhealthy. It's the same for our pets, right? Why is kibble so, awesome, right? And that's sarcasm. But yeah, see, and here's the thing though, too. I think this is important because you can go crazy on the holistic side where you're like, it has to be natural. I can't expose myself. And you're like, now you're living in a bubble. And this is the same with our pets. And I think, kibble's easy. Like it is convenient. And they knew that when they made it. Like, this is super easy. Like, right? Like, you don't have to make it. Like, a lot of people aren't even cooking for themselves. Like, they don't have time to cook for their pets. That's a reality. And so I think that's really important to keep in mind is you're building resilience. So when you do come into contact with something that maybe isn't 100% optimal or is not good for you, you're not going to be broken from it. So, Mark, eating the burger,
Baby steps.
like eating the burger,
Yeah.
like I still eat, foods that technically aren't, on the list of like, oh, it's not 100% paleo and like grass fed and, oh, it might have some canola oil or seed oils in it. And the thing is, though, is once again, going back to how is your baseline? What are you doing daily that's building up the resilience for your pet? So going back to like foundations, right? What are we feeding? How is your pet's gut health? What is their emotional health? Are we getting out moving? For cats, I want to speak to the cats too. Cats should not sleep all day, engaging with them, playing with them, getting them up and moving, crumbling up a piece of paper and throwing it is like the simplest, easiest, cheapest toy, and cats love it. So making sure that we're providing those environmental enrichment tools for them is really, really key.
Sure.
So
Absolutely.
For real, for real, for real, for real, for real, for real, for real.
And we'll be right back. Think how frustrating it must be for your dog to be scratching, biting into fur, shaking their heads, when they're really, really itchy. Now, my dog Mabel, she's suffered with allergies until now. Someone told me about Better Wild Allergy Relief Soft Chews. Now, imagine seeing your dog not suffering. When Mabel looks at me now, I know she's thinking, why didn't you give me these Better Wild Allergy Relief Soft Chews sooner, Dad? Better Wild Allergy Relief Soft Chews are designed to strengthen your pet's digestive system. We're talking long-term allergy relief by strengthening their natural defense system. Mabel and I, we've seen the benefits, and you can too. Right now, Better Wild is offering our listeners up to 40% off at betterwild.com/forreal. That's betterwild.com/forreal for up to 40% off your order. betterwild.com/forreal. And let's give your dog the allergy relief they deserve. Mabel and I, we love it. We are supported by Peptide, providing stem cell therapy for pets.
As a pet lover, did you know your pet can benefit from the incredible healing power of stem cell therapy? Prep Therapy offers a groundbreaking solution taken right from your pet's own blood. Say goodbye to joint pain, arthritis, kidney and liver conditions, and more. They'll experience faster recovery, increased vitality, and extended quality of life without the need for surgery or harmful drugs. Put the wag back in their tail and discover Prep Therapy today at prepvet.com. Save 10% with promo code FurRealPodcast, covered by most pet insurance.
I want to do two things, but I want to get into what you have with the natural pet doctor. But two things I want to ask you about. I want to get into HMTA, and we can go over in a broad stroke if you want to. Mm-hmm. And I also I'm curious about peptides. One is I've been looking at personally. The problem is I told you get stuck with me, you're going to go everywhere. But
okay.
Let's touch on HMTA so everybody understands what it is versus blood test.
Yes.
And then just kind of or do a broad stroke or whatever on peptides, because I'm really curious. I've been thinking about taking it, so I actually want to know more about it myself.
I love peptides.
Yeah.
So hair tissue tests. So this is where, once again, so some of the foundational things, but also too, if people are interested in learning more about what's going on, you can use these tests for yourself, but also for your pet. Like sometimes assuming everything is fine isn't necessarily I like proactive testing. I do it for myself to get an idea of what I need to shift and adjust. And now we live in a world where we have access to a lot of these great functional medicine tests for pets. And so a hair tissue mineral analysis test, HTMA, it's a fur test. So you're not plucking the fur, you're essentially shaving, or you can use scissors and cut the fur at the skin level. We want to get as close to the skin as possible. But essentially what it's looking at is the last 3 months of cellular health of what's been going on in your pet. So when a hair is growing from the hair follicle, it's being bathed in all these extracellular cells, right? The extracellular matrix. And there's cells and nutrients, and then they get hardened into the follicle, and it creates the fur or the hair as it grows out. So it's locking in all this information. Now, the neat thing with this is we get a bigger picture. So we're getting the last 3 months of cell health, whereas blood work is a snapshot of right now. So blood work is important, but most pets that I work with are the blood work was normal. There's nothing wrong. And I'm like, but is your pet normal? No.
Yeah.
So what else is going on? The blood work is not to a place where the imbalances have reached the blood to show up in the blood. So blood will always draw from the tissues first to maintain strict balance or homeostasis, whereas the hair or fur is going to uncover imbalances much sooner. So this is really powerful because it's giving us this bigger picture of overall health. How well are we digesting our nutrients? Do we have imbalances? What's going on with the adrenals? What's going on is the thyroid. Is the thyroid able to get into the cells? Do we have a detox issue? So it looks at heavy metals. It's one of the few tests that's really helpful for heavy metals. And interpreting it is really important because it's not you shouldn't be looking at it from these are low, we supplement, these are high, we reduce them. It is much more intricate than that. So that's really important when you're working with a practitioner. They know how to interpret those hair tissue tests. But these tests have been invaluable. It's one of the first tests I will always run on a pet when they become my patient, because I want to see overall, where is that baseline? What systems are under stress? And is detox a huger issue than what we're thinking it is? Sometimes that is it looks fine and it's not a starting place. But I find without that information, a lot of people now are reaching for detox. They just start with detox. They're detox, detox, detox. I love detox. I love learning it. It's so intricate, and there is a wrong and a right way to detox. And many people are creating Herxheimer or detox reactions and making their pets worse because They're not thinking about what is this doing? Is my pet actually nutritionally stable to be able to nutritionally support phase 1, phase 2 detox pathways in the liver? So that's really, really important. A really depleted pet, you do not want to even touch detox. You need to build them up and support those areas. There's a lot of times adrenal stress, the nervous system, once again, is in fight or flight. We can see all of that with a hair tissue test. So I like it non-invasive, gives you tons of information, and it's not diagnosing health conditions, but it's giving us an idea of where imbalances are so we can actually create a plan that's individualized to that pet moving forward.
It's a bigger picture.
It is. And then you can use other functional medicine tests like microbiome testing. There's other functional gut health tests from like Innovative Pet Lab that look at, do we have leaky gut? Do we have inflammation in the gut using certain biomarkers like calprotectin? Do we have is our local gut immune system responding to something, or is it not responding enough? And then based on that, you can use specific supplementation to improve that pet and resolve those imbalances. So once again, it's a tool in the toolbox. I love functional medicine testing because it's all like puzzle pieces that we have to put together to get the bigger picture of where then do we need to go with that pet to either proactively maintain optimal health or, start fixing things that have gone wrong. And now, this pet has chronic health conditions.
Knowledge is power.
It is. I like information.
Yeah, me too. Well, if you don't have it, you can't make good decisions. You just can't make good decisions.
It makes it harder. I always say you don't have to do these tests. I know that, tests can add up in cost wise. However, if you can do these tests, they are really, really helpful. And it will save you a lot of money down the road because you're not just guessing and hoping, that protocol is going to work. I see a lot of times with pets that have allergies, they're just attacking yeast. And I'm like, I don't think it's yeast anymore. I think the yeast has left the building. There are other things going on. Stop doing that protocol. The 7th time should tell you it's not going to work. You need to do something different. Spend the money on the test. Get some information, and then that way you have a better chance of actually treating what's imbalanced versus just throwing the same thing at it and hoping, something's, that's the definition of crazy, right? Doing the same thing and expecting a different outcome.
You're looking at them right now. That's the definition of crazy. I'm the before and you're the after.
No, remember, we just got to get rid of the gain. You're going to lose a little bit and then you gain a ton.
Okay, now let's talk peptides because I still want to talk about. There's a lot of cool stuff you're doing with your YouTube channel now and your website now, but I want to talk about peptides because I want to take it, and I know it's good for. I want to know why it's good for everybody and all that. Can we go into that a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. So peptide therapy. I started using peptide. I love peptides. Once I was a little scared of them, at first. Found them actually through my husband's journey because he
Right.
does a ton of research and it's fantastic. It's wonderful. And I was like, there's something here. And, the big one is the BPC 157.
Yeah, everybody's talking about 157.
Yeah, and there's a lot of different peptides, and we're naturally producing peptides. And also, too, a lot of the drugs that are currently being used are actually peptides and supplements. Like glutathione is a peptide, insulin is a peptide. So I think this is one of those things people start getting scared of, oh, this is synthetic, we're going to mess with things. And also, too, I do want to speak to the GLP-1s and the Wegovy's and the, weight loss peptides. There is a dose that is appropriate. And a lot of times, just with anything, medications, supplements, herbs, if you are overdosing, you will get side effects.
Right.
That is the thing. So you have to keep that in mind, whether you're using peptides or you're using something else. The other thing too with peptides, just kind of as a disclaimer, is that sometimes people will grab onto these and be like, this is the holy grail. This is the thing that's going to change everything. It's not. It is a tool. And so this is where, if you are still stressed out, you're not, using some of the appropriate supplements to build up the foundation, we're chronically inflamed, this is where peptides will only go so far. So not looking at it as the holy grail, but looking at it as it complements what we're currently doing and making sure we're optimizing the foundations. Now, peptides, once again, are not for every pet. They're not for every human. And also peptides in animals is a newer kind of thing. There's not a lot of people talking about them, but I've used them a lot with patients. And
For what?
so this is where So I like experimenting with things myself. I'm a big experimenter and I like trying things to see how do I feel? What happened? And once again, case study of one. This is not a scientific study. So, but I also, like to test out the brands and, connect with them and be able to see, okay, do I trust them? How do I feel? Is it working? So this is where using peptides. So there's a couple peptides that are like my main go-to. I'm a little bit limited because I work with a lot of clients more virtually, so I'm not in person, and also to the liability of like having pet parents do injectable. Very limited unless I am working specifically with that person and they're very confident in that. So this is where some peptides, they cannot be given orally. They're broken down by the stomach acid. They're just not going to work. And so we are limited with, what peptides work orally. But the nice one, BPC 157, so your body protection compound.
Can you take that orally? Because the people that I know, they're injecting it themselves or whatever they're doing.
You can do both.
Uh-huh.
So I actually take it orally. So I started taking it, probably been almost 2 years now. I started taking it, one of my races, my knees, like old age. My knees, years of playing soccer, my knees were shot. And I was like, this is not good. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to take BPC and see what happens. I was like crippled after a half marathon. I could barely like go upstairs.
Old and
decrepit, down the hill after 40.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what? I have nothing to lose. Let's see what happens. Within 2 days, I was like, I don't have pain. That was the only thing I changed. That's really crazy.
But I also heard that I don't know if it's 157. I have like two or three friends that I know that work out. We don't work out together, but we talk the same language. And I know one of my friends is doing 157 and like two other ones that are it's some whatever cocktail it is, but he says his energy level is significantly different.
Yeah. So there's going to be different peptides.
Right.
That's the thing. So I use a lot of BPC 157 for gut health issues. So that's what it's kind of known for. It's also naturally produced in the stomach. That's why it's not degraded by stomach acid.
So is it an anti-inflammatory? What is it?
So what it does is it increases the circulation to the gut lining. So it's actually helping to repair things like leaky gut, if you have GI ulcers, so for both people and for pets. And so IBD, huge. And there's research around that. Once again, we're limited with the animal side of things. It's more like rat studies and stuff like that. However, I've seen amazing results. Incredible acid reflux going away, IBD improving. Now, keep in mind there are some pets where we always start with lower dosages, and there are companies now that I'll use that make pet-specific ones. So that's always nice too, where you can go to that. But also BPC is really helpful, like how I used it with joint inflammation. So osteoarthritis, if you have muscle issues and strain, this is where that can be really powerful and helpful. You can always couple that with like TB 500. That's another peptide for like recovery, muscle strains and tears, whether it's for pets or people. The biggest things to keep in mind with those two peptides, though, because it is increasing blood flow, there's not necessarily a correlation. It's just something to be aware of. If there's known cancer, like polyps, GI lymphoma, anything like that, you probably don't want to use those peptides because it is increasing circulation. Now, there's no studies that indicate that. It's kind of just a warning. And I've had pets that still use it and get good results, and their cancer's not impacted. So once again, just something to be aware of. The other thing to keep in mind too, especially if you're using oral peptides like BPC specifically, this is where if you're using it for arthritis and you're taking it orally, it's going to work where it's needed most first. So if your gut is trashed and your microbiome is, not in a good state, you have lots of leaky gut, and you're like, I'm going to take this for my joints, you may not feel anything in your joints because it's actually going and working on your gut first. So that's something to keep in mind. I typically tell people give it at least 3 months. And then that way too, you can see where you're at. Now, how I use them now, because I still use them, is I'll take a break from them, because you want to take a break from peptides. You want your body to naturally produce these. You don't want to shut down those pathways and have it like desensitized. Is you take it for like a month and then you take a couple days off. Or if you're feeling really good, just wait until you feel like your joints flare up again. If you have my knees are crunchy. Like I know there is damage. Like that's a given, but it doesn't mean I have pain.
8 knee surgeries.
Yeah. So there you go. So like BPC would be helpful. Now, Injectable BPC is going to work more on your joints. It's going to go there for you're bypassing the gut.
So if you're going through the gut, does your body eventually start absorbing into the joints and too? It just takes a while to build up some?
Yep.
Okay.
But for me, like I said, like 2 days and I was like, wow, my knees feel so much better. So it can be really quick, like I personally experienced. So,
well, you were so decrepit before.
I don't know. I thought I had more gut issue. I was like, I don't know if my gut's that great. I mean, I drink some wine. It's probably creating leaky gut, right? So
I thought tequila was helpful too, though.
I maybe I should switch. So, but you just take PPC, right? Like this is where
tequila solves everything.
No one to listen to what we're saying, by the way. This is all sarcasm. Like you cannot out supplement your bad habits. So, so we can try to keep up a little bit. But no, like your peptides, they're a great tool for that. Once again, this is where like I take a lot of other supplements, and when we're using supplements in pets, or sorry, peptides in pets, we still need to look at the other supplements. That's really important. And the other thing too, just like with supplements, when you're looking at like, okay, we're reducing inflammation or we're treating this, you need to make sure the brand and the way it's being produced is okay. Because if they're with peptides, it is the Wild West out there now. Same with the supplement industry. And so once again, when you're choosing a product, you need to find a brand. Like I mentioned, Prospect Pet.
Right.
They're testing. They're looking at the certificate of analysis. They have like a clean and conscious promise. Like these are companies that you want to use that are very transparent. And it is 100% that way with peptide therapy. So this is something where there's a lot of peptides on the black market. They may not work. They could have other things in them. They could have other chemicals, toxins, stuff like that. So you do have to be careful with that.
So this is a great segue because when you're talking about supplements into your website and your YouTube thing, but real quickly, and I don't want to get into this, and we can probably do it about offline. Are they doing NADs with animals as well?
Yes.
Okay, well, hold on to that because I promise you I wouldn't go too long. And of course, this is what I do.
We could just talk forever. There's so many things. I mean, there's all these other peptides too. Maybe we should just have a peptide conversation.
Trust me, I have the worst part about this now, I have a million more questions for you, but I want to talk about the natural pet doctor. So here's what I want to do, because I know you have your YouTube thing, you've got the website, and one of the things I really like that you have is you have educational things that are at no cost, and I know you have different programs. So let's break that down, because any pet parent that's concerned, you can go through the internet and find things out, but you've spent the time to break it down into smaller levels that are actually educated and put there. So let's talk about that for your DIY people and all that too. But let's go in there because you are the natural pet doctor, so we got to go there.
I am the natural pet doctor.
I know. I think naturally you are.
Once again, we're not against conventional, but there's so many other things that we can use. And I think this is where, when I started my business back in, I think it was 2019 when we started, it was mainly like I was a house call acupuncturist, and then COVID hit the next year and I was like, this is great. We're going to have to pivot. And that's when also too, blessing in disguise for myself in that era, because I realized I love education and it's so needed and we can reach more people. And so this is where, how can we break things down that make it easier for people to understand and give them easy to use tools and resources and guides? And once again, it doesn't always work for every pet. And sometimes healing is not simple, like 100%. Most of my clients, like they've done the simple things and they are very complex. There's multiple layers that we have to unpeel. But this is where, the YouTube channel and the blogs and the newsletter that we put out every single week.
Tell everybody while we're doing that, by the way, and it's in the description, but tell everybody how to find those, and let's get into that so people can know how to find them.
I tried to make it super simple at the start, which I'm very grateful for. So if you ever search Dr. Katie Woodley, the Natural Pet Doctor, that's my YouTube channel. So if you type in the Natural Pet Doctor, it will come up. Also, we have social media, so The Natural Pet Doctor, and then the website is thenaturalpetdoctor.com.
Oh, let me see if I can remember. They're all different, aren't they? Oh, no, they're all the same.
You'll get there eventually, and if all you do is type in my name, it should come up. I hope it comes up. There's no other Katie Woodleys that I know of right now that are doing holistic medicine and the veterinary field. But
I don't know a Katie Woodley, but I know the natural pet.
There you go. That's all you need. So
that's all I need.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those things too, where being able to give people like links to recommended supplements. There are tests that we offer too. So, tons of DIY information. We do have DIY programs too, because not everyone needs their handheld or wants that. They want to do their things first. And a lot of times they can get results. And that's my goal with those programs. I don't want you to need me. That's my ultimate goal. I feel like I haven't done my job if you still need me and we haven't fixed your pet. So that's really important. And I recognize that the world, like I said earlier, is getting more toxic. It is very stressful. It is not as easy to heal pets now as it was when I first graduated. That's the interesting fact that I've noticed. And a lot of my colleagues and I talk about it.
Well, one of the things I like is that, as anybody that knows has spent any time on the internet, you can't believe everything you read.
No.
And the problem is, if you want to find it out there, if you believe it's something, you'll find somebody that believes that too. Then all of a sudden it becomes true.
Yeah.
What I think for you guys that are listening and for you is that you've done the research, you've done it. And one of the reasons why I want people to get to know you so they can trust you.
Yeah.
Now they can go to your site and actually feel more comfortable and figure out all the things you have, which I think is really important.
Yes, 100%. And I appreciate platforms like yours. These are so important to share that information.
Not the when you're the joke. I don't know if you're going to anymore.
It's okay. It's okay. I'll still appreciate you, Mark. But I think it is really important that we have a lot and I'm not going to say the influencer name is a bad thing, because if you're sharing information that's valid, that is a really important platform. But unfortunately, there are a lot of people sharing things that can create harm or are also not 100% correct information. And also, too, the other thing, being in this space of integrated medicine, a lot of times, like if you're Googling or you're going into, the chat GPT now, it will tell you you're harming your pet with some of the, like if you put peptide therapy in for your pet, it will tell you you're hurting them.
Right.
And that is not the situation. And I think that's really important to keep in mind. And it's really important to listen to podcasts like Mark that share all these like crazy and amazing tips and tools and practitioners.
Amazing. I don't know about crazy.
I haven't heard your joke yet, so maybe I'll share.
No, that's not crazy. It's a story.
But this is where it's important to find people that you resonate with too. Like I recognize as a practitioner, I'm not for everyone, and that's okay. But if I can help you discern the information and find the people and the tools and resources that you do resonate with, that's also really important also, because there are a lot of people out there that need help and guidance today for themselves and for their pets. So, these platforms are so important, and I appreciate being able to share my voice on it. So thank you, Mark.
Well, I really appreciate that too. But again, for everybody that's listening, I'm gonna promote it a little bit more because you didn't do a very good job. Because I use Gain to clean my clothes. I smell good.
It's the Gain.
It smells like
I'm
sheep.
smelling it over here, Mark. It's impactful.
Yeah, well, that's good. I'm smelling the sheep from New Zealand right now. But no, if you go to her stuff, you can see all this information's on there. There's webinars and there's a bunch of stuff, and it's at no cost. And then there's opportunities to do some other things if you want to go farther. But that information out there, and it's valid information versus what if you don't know on the internet, you just don't know. And I can tell you, just because of all the people I talk to, including porcupine experts,
We won't go into
I know some of that
porcupine
stuff.
and interesting facts about porcupine.
Anyways, so we got all your stuff on it again. For people who are listening, it's in the description. Is there anything else that we need to cover? I mean, again, we could talk for days, but I know you have a life too. So
I think, once again, just to emphasize, like, I think an important fact is, being aware of what you're giving, what you're feeding, going back to those principles of like, how can you keep things simple? Like I said, I'm very grateful and blessed to be able to partner as a veterinary advisor for a lot of companies now. And so very aware of, the supplement companies and even testing companies. And a lot of people are using some of these companies and spending a lot of money, and it's not necessarily helping their pet, or it's sending them down like the wrong path, and it's delaying you getting progress. And so I think that's really important when you're looking at what is best for your pet. Take in the information. Don't, have analysis paralysis. But like Mark said, find the practitioners that you resonate with, that you can trust, and then, take that leap of faith using some of the products. Start small, start with one product, or start with changing over, to a fresh food or adding superfood toppers. And then once again, looking at the foundations and making sure you're assessing those. That's something I do every day. And it's not a 30-minute process. It's like, oh, I feel tired. Oh, I can improve my sleep tonight. Like, what do I need to do to help with that? Or I feel stressed. What do I need to do to take care of myself so I can empty my bucket so I can, I'm not overfilling it. And these are the same questions we can ask for our pets. Like this, at the time of filming this, holiday season, stress, like it is going to be crazy. And a lot of pets are going into boarding. And so where can you implement and support and help them so that way they can get through the holiday season without, you having to go to the ER? And simple tools, I love chamomile tea. I talk about teas a lot too. We didn't cover teas, but there's simple things that you can do. I have an emergency kit that's free on my website that you can download and make sure you're prepared. Preparation is really important for us and for our pets. So I think once again, what can you start with? Start with one thing, try to keep it as simple as possible and know that one thing adds up and makes a big difference overall.
That's perfect information. And also for you guys listening too, is nobody's saying here, and I 100% know this, is that we're not saying Western medicine is any better or Eastern medicine is better there. We're saying that both are good. And there's situations where both work. But a combination, and using the term again, more tools in the toolbox, is just, I think as a pet parent, not a podcast guy, as a pet parent, I want to have options. And this way you have better options and you can make your own decisions on that too.
100%. I agree 100% with that. It's about being the bridge and just recognizing right. If this resonates, fantastic. If it doesn't, that's okay.
Yeah.
But knowing if you ever get stuck in a place like we were in with my husband, where those tools that were given to us weren't working or helping, we had other tools because we were able to explore different modalities.
Right. So don't give up is the other thing too. If you have a vet that you think is quite good, that doesn't mean there's not another option that they just haven't pursued.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean they're right or wrong.
They just might not know.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't know what you don't know.
Exactly. And just because someone is telling you that this doesn't work,
if
they don't have experience or knowledge in that area, take it for what it's worth, but also too, don't take it as the word of God. I think that's really important.
Right.
Get a second opinion. With someone who is trained, if you are looking for a holistic modality or herbal medicine or something, work with someone who's actually trained in it and has gone through the certification programs, because there's actually quite a few of us out here now, which is great. We're still a lot less than more of our mainstream conventional colleagues, but there are a lot of us out there. And once again, like Mark said, this is where a lot of people lose hope. And if the information we're sharing can provide a little bit of hope for someone who's in a tough time, that's the most important thing.
The crazy thing is vet schools, and, for anybody, when you go to vet school, years ago, they didn't teach a lot of these modalities. They do now. They're teaching acupuncture. They're teaching all those things. Not all of them, but it's getting there. It's way better than it was 10 years ago.
It is.
I agree.
Slow and steady wins the race is what I always say to my clients. The same with like this movement.
I'm just using your terms. They're keeping it simple.
They are, right? I mean, kibble's simple.
Sometimes too simple can be bad.
Antibiotics are simple. So
yeah, exactly. Okay, we're at that time now where you get to hear the joke. For you guys that are listening, I know you're cringing already. But as I always say, I prefer not to tell the jokes. I know the guests, half the times I coax them into doing it. But for you guys, if you've got grandchildren and you want them on the show, if you want to tell a joke and be on the show, nieces, nephews, whatever, I plead with you to please send me an email at mkyle@forrealpodcast.com. I'll put you on. I promise you, because I'm already dreading having to say it, because I know you're going to be going, oh my God, he's saying it again. And she didn't know that I was going to have to tell her one, so she's going to be tortured for you guys. So here's my joke of the day. What kind of dog loves to go racing?
What kind of dog, Mark?
I almost hate to tell you. A lap dog. I told you.
That's actually really good. I like that one. I'm going to say
as well. It's one of the ones I can remember. There's not too many words in it, so it's pretty good. But anyways, thanks. So, hey, first off, thanks so much for being on. By the way, for you guys listening, I promised I was going to be really short with her, and I could still go. So you took a lot more time than we really had planned, and I really appreciate you doing that, being on and really helping people out. And again, go to the description, everybody. But really, Katie, thanks so much. It's so nice to meet you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mark. I truly enjoyed speaking with you and sharing all of the information and hearing your joke.
Yeah, the best joke
That was
ever.
the best part of the whole thing, actually.
Yeah. Oh, God. Now you know where she's coming from. She really is naturally funny. Anyway,
New Zealand in me.
yeah, exactly. Down under, but farther. Anyways, for everybody else that's listening, as I always say, keep following, keep listening. One of the reasons why I'm able to get good guests like Katie here is because you guys. The more people that listen, the easier it is for me to get new guests on, because obviously they want to get their word out. But you guys make the difference. So really, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for listening. For real.
That concludes this episode of For Real with your host, Mark Kyle. For previous and future episodes of For Real, listen via all major podcast streaming sites.